Hello everybody, this is Johns Hopkins with Baltimore Heritage, and we're back with another of our 5-minute Histories videos. And today we're going to talk about Lovely Lane United Methodist Church behind me. Have to say a quick thanks to Jackie Knoller and Marilyn Wachowski for providing a great suggestion and some wonderful research, so thanks so much. Let's start in 1997. If you were here in 1997 in Baltimore, you may remember we were celebrating our 200th anniversary of becoming an incorporated city. And at that time, there was a little poster that went around called Baltimore, America's City of Firsts. And it listed out 100 things that happened here in Baltimore first. Things like the first post office and the first dental school, the first ice cream freezer, the first Ouija board, really wonderful things like that. And we're going to talk about another first, and that's the founding of American Methodism. That happened here in Baltimore at Lovely Lane as well. The year was not 1997, but 1784. In 1784, on Christmas Eve, a gentleman, Thomas Coke, who had come from England, organized what became known as the Christmas Conference. And it was a meeting of Methodists at Lovely Lane Meeting House here in Baltimore. And out of that came the first independent Methodist church in the United States. There had been Methodist meetings here before then, but this was the first one that was independent of England, where Methodists started. One of the church's first ministers, Francis Asbury, became the first bishop of American Methodism as well. So 1784 gets its start. By 1785, the church had grown tremendously. And those of you who know the old Goucher district, where I am here, will say, well, there is no Lovely Lane in Old Goucher. How did the church get its name? And you're right, there is no Lovely Lane here. The church got its start downtown. If you know where the Chesapeake Shakespeare Theater is, between Calvert and South Street on Redwood Street, that's where Lovely Lane was. And there still is a tiny little slice of Lovely Lane left, about 100 feet long, right next to the Chesapeake Shakespeare Theater. There's a plaque there commemorating the founding of Methodism and the church itself. So go down and check it out. So the church moved across the street. It had grown. It moved into a 2-story building. That caught fire 10 years later. The church moved around. And by the 1870s, so 90 or so years later, it was in a bigger building on Charles and I believe it was Fayette Streets. But that was not to be its permanent home. The city told the church then that it was going to demolish the building to widen Fayette Street. And at that time, the church was nearing its 100th anniversary and its 100th anniversary of Methodism in America, and decided that it would put some real thought and energy into a serious building. And at that time, along comes John Franklin Goucher. Reverend Goucher had been assigned to Lovely Lane, and he had a reputation for being a church builder. So what is the phrase, the right place at the right time and the right person? Well, that was definitely Goucher. Although his congregation protested, his idea was to build the church not in downtown Baltimore, but out in the county, in Baltimore County, north of North Avenue. And even though 2/3 of his congregation protested, in their words, who would want to live out in the woods, Goucher persisted. And he, in fact, persisted in going big. He hired the best architecture firm, the most well-known architecture firm in the country out of New York, Newcomb, Mead & White. And not only that, but made sure that the most renowned architect, Stanford White, in that firm, was personally responsible for the design and construction of the building. And the building itself is really tremendous. Let me read to you a few stats here. 175,000 cubic feet of port deposit granite, 300,000 feet of lumber, 150,000 bricks, 80 tons of iron, and 130 tons of roof tile in this building. The tower itself is 225 feet tall, modeled after the Campanile of Santa Maria in Ravenna, Italy. And if you're wondering who did the wonderful stained glass windows in the sanctuary, those were done in the studios of Louis Comfort Tiffany. So really going big there. The cornerstone was laid in 1884, and the church opened its doors for its first meeting for worship in 1887 on November 6th. And there were some doubters, maybe in some quiet corners. Some people called it maybe whispering. They called this building Goucher's Folly, or the Cathedral in the Cornfield. But on opening day, everybody was happy. There was standing room only. And in addition to worship, Methodist worship, they passed the hat and were able to collect enough money to pay off the building on the very first day it opened. Want to conclude with two things. One is that the church is still growing strong today. It has services, regular services, and is also a community hub, a hub of community activities. And in fact, right now is in the middle of a restoration campaign, restoring the building, some of its historic elements, as well as fitting out some of its rooms to better serve community and arts groups. If you want to know more about that, we'll put a link at the end of this video. But want to end with one space that we didn't talk about yet, and that is the unbelievably wonderful dome in the main sanctuary. If you get in there, and I encourage you please to make a point when we can to get in, whether you're Methodist or not, make a point to do that, and sit in a pew and look up. And what you will be looking at are the heavens as they were at 3 a.m. on November 6th, 1887. And that is when the doors open for the very first time here at the church. To get that painting, the church went across the street to the brand new Johns Hopkins University and got the help of one of its founding professors, a guy named Newcomb. And with Newcomb's astronomy assistance, the artist was able to paint the heavens, complete with planets and constellations and stars as they looked on that November 6th day. Fast forward to 2003, that's the last time the church had a major restoration campaign. And at that time, the church really needed it, especially the dome. Some of the planets had peeled off, the constellations were faded or maybe gone altogether. But the church knew where to look to for help. And again, 115 years later, we're going to end with a sort of quintessential Baltimore story, only in Baltimore. Again, they walked across Charles Street to Hopkins University. And this time, Hopkins had the Space Telescope Science Institute. People there were literally running the Hubble Space Telescope. Certainly, they could tell how the heavens looked on April 6, 1887 at 3 a.m. And lo and behold, the Hopkins folks were able to help again. And so with that assistance, that a partnership, 115-year-old partnership, the restoration artists were able to do their job, and the Lovely Lane Methodist Church was able to get back its wonderful heavenly dome as it looked at 3 a.m. on November 6th, 1887. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.